This is Yahson David Speaks, and I'm gonna bring the word. It ain't about how you or me feel, that is for the birds. Cause when the scriptures speak, we got to listen to the Lord. Cause every word is righteous, sharper than a sword. Hey, what's going on, my brothers and sisters? First off, let me say grace, peace, and mercy be unto you all from Jehovah our Father, Jesus Christ our Lord, and the Holy Spirit. All right, before we get into the video today in the From Beginning to End series, or From Genesis to Revelation series, before we jump into this video, man, please make sure y'all like this video, share this video, subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed, ring that bell notification so you can get updated to the videos that I'll do from here on out. And also, leave a comment, man. Leave a comment and let's have an interaction, man, because like I said, who you going to see actually reading the scriptures and just going line upon line, precept upon precept. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Exodus chapter 21. And we're going to start off at verse 1, where it says, "Now these are the judgments which you shall set before them." So right here, this is the Lord basically telling Moses that right here is some more judgments that the children of Israel should know, set before them, tell them. It says, "If you buy an Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th year he shall go out free for nothing." Oh my goodness. Do y'all see this right here? Like, the Lord had told Moses to tell the children of Israel that if you buy a Hebrew servant, not a slave, I want y'all to understand, a servant is not a slave. A servant is someone basically coming to work for you, and they choose to work for you. And it's not no forced labor and all that stuff. They choose to work. They looking for work. So it says, if you buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall work for you. He shall serve you. And it says, and in the 7th year he shall go free for nothing. So that right there should let you know that this is not slavery. Why? Because in the 7th year, that person can leave. That person can go where they want to go, take the money that they have and build their own life. But he said they should go free for nothing. Don't that remind y'all of how even in our world today, that dealing with credit, for example, it says 7 years. You know what I'm saying? Like within 7 years, after the 7th year, it's gonna fall off your credit. In a sense, they try to go by how the word of God is. They could try to go by it, but they fall off and mess up at times. But anyway, let's continue. Verse 3 says, "If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife will go out with him." So right here, this is that if this man came in by himself, he can leave by himself in the 7th year. Like, and matter of fact, that goes back to the 7th year is basically, in a sense, the Sabbath year. It's like how 6 days you shall work. This right here says 6 years he shall work and serve for you. In the 7th year he should go free. Why? Because that's the day of rest. That's the relief. That's your relief date. And then it says, if he were married, then his wife and him shall go out together. So this is to let you know that this is not slavery, because a lot of people try to look at that like, see right there, it's slavery. God was pro-slavery. No, it's not slavery. This is servitude. This is almost like a contract. Hey, you want to work for me? Oh, you want a place to live? You want food to eat and everything? Want money? Okay. Well, you work for me. 6 years. The Lord says 6 years you can work for me. Okay. Well, come on. You and your family, come on. Y'all got a place to stay, food to eat, and everything. That's basically how it was. It was not no, well, look, I want that person right there, and I want to beat them and make them, force them to do my will. No, that's not the case. And matter of fact, you can see that even in Genesis, because um, when Abraham, he had his servant was, I mean, didn't want to leave. You know what I'm saying? Like, He could have been left, but his servant chose to stay with him. Why? Because he was living good. He was living without a care in the world, in a sense, because he was taken care of by Abraham, and by Abraham being a follower of the Most High, he was taken care of. But anyway, let's continue. And it says, if his master had given him a wife, and she had borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her masters, and he shall go out by himself. So, right there, like, I know people might look at this like, man, that's messed up. No, it's not, because if you came in with wife and children, your wife and children go out with you. But see, by the king, by a man typically having wealth and everything of that nature, if he got maid servants that's with him and that's living with him, and let's say I'm a servant, and I go in to this master's house, and I'm living there, and I'm living good, and getting get my money, and got food to eat and everything, and then I see this beautiful lady. I'm like, man, and I go to the master like, hey, is it okay if I can because it's almost like how when you want to marry, you're supposed to go to the father and ask for their hand in marriage and state, and ask for their daughter to be your wife. You go to the master and ask him, is it okay if I can have her to be my wife? And the master say yes. But see, when the master say yes, by you still being his servant, because the contract that you have in a sense, and she is his servant, like he said yes. Once you say yes and you go in unto her, you have family, you have children. You under his rule, you under his contract in a sense. So once you get married and have children, and then you choose like, well, my 7th year, I'm gonna go ahead and leave. The wife and the children don't go, because they still, she chose to stay there. She's chose to stay there and serve her master. You see what I'm saying? So the children and the wife, they got to stay, because he gave her to you, and the children came into the world because he gave her to you while you was there with him. You see what I'm saying? So it's not slavery, it's not forced labor, it's just how law was. Okay? So then verse 5 says, and if the servant plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. So now listen at the words now. This is his choice. Is what he chooses to do. He said, I love my master, my wife, and my children. I will not go out free. I don't want to leave. So that's a choice. So this is not forced labor. This is not slavery. Just to let y'all know. Verse 6 says, then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall bring him to the door, or unto the doorposts. His master shall bore his ear through with an awl. He shall serve him forever. So right there, that goes back to the wife. The wife, if she chose to do that, if she chose to be his maid servant like that, that's the reason why she couldn't go out with him, because she already made the choice. So now with the man, he's now making the same choice. Like, I love my master, I love my wife, and I love my children. I don't want to go out free. So now it says you must bore his ear with an awl. So now you see in like in Africa and stuff like that, where they have like a bore in their ear, and it's like, something is within their ear. Is that right there? Is it comes from, like, that's what it's talking about. You bore his ear with an awl, and that is a sign and symbol that he chose to stay. Okay. Then verse 7 says, and if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. Okay. Now this right here is giving you more understanding. So it says, if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant. So this right here letting you, this is a clear indication to let you know that this is not forced labor, not forced labor. Because why will you sell your daughter to be a slave to another man? You see what I'm saying? So it's just basically saying like, hey, look, My daughter, she's of age now, she's grown, and she haven't gotten her husband or nothing yet. So look, man, if you want my daughter to be your servant, hey daughter, he's paying it for you to be his servant. Go with him, and then he's gonna take care of her and feed her and do everything like a man would do. Okay. But then it says that by her being by the father selling her to him, it says she shall not go out as the men servants do. So right now, this is giving you a more understanding about how the reason why the woman can't go out free with her husband, because she can't leave like how men servants do. Men can work 6 years and then leave on the 7th year and go out free with for nothing. You know what this story remind me of? That remind me of Jacob and Laban. When Jacob went to his mother's brother's house and asked for his daughter's hands in marriage, he said, "Work for me 7 years, and like basically the 7th year, you can receive her." This is the same thing. So right here is not. I want to keep punching this in y'all head. This is not slavery. This is for choice, freedom of choice. So right there, we know that she can't go out as the men servants do. Why? Because men can men have can work and do all that thing and take care of themselves, where women is supposed to be like wives and basically the men take care of them. So if a woman don't have no man to take care of them, she got to stay with that man or stay with her father. Okay. Now verse 8 says, if she please not her master, who have betrothed her to himself, then shall he let her be redeemed. To sell her unto a strange nation, he shall have no power, seeing he had dealt deceitfully with her. Okay, so now this right here, this verse is giving me more of an understanding. See, 7 says, if a man sell his daughter to be a maid servant, she shall not go out as men servants do. But see, verse 8 says, if she please not her master, who have betrothed her to himself. If I'm not mistaken, betrothed means engaged. Like she's engaged to him to be his wife in a sense. It says, then shall he let her be redeemed. And it says, to sell her to a strange nation, he shall have no power over her. He shall have no power, seeing he have deceit dealtfully with her. So when you purchase, like you basically just like how when a man go to the father and want the daughter to be his wife, you got to give 50 shekels of silver, or work for her to be your wife, and things of that nature, gifts and all that stuff. So the same thing goes for this right here. If you want her to be your maid servant, your in a sense concubine, you got to basically pay for her. And if you pay for her and then you're not pleased with her, then you got to basically let her be redeemed. Like, let her be able to go to another man to be a maid servant, and you can't have no power, no say of what she do. Wow, okay. So now, in a sense, that's where your concubine telling you about how the concubines. Okay. So now verse 9 says, and if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. Oh, so now the woman, if he basically give her unto the son, now she shall be his daughter-in-law, because that's his son's wife. And then verse 10 says, if he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. So right there, listen, y'all. This right here is letting it be known, because like it says that she's betrothed unto him, meaning that she's his wife. And then it says if he give her to another, like if he's not pleased with her, he sell her to another, basically let her be able to go to another man to be his wife, in a sense, like a bill of writing, like, hey, you can go ahead and be another man's wife. But then it says also if you give her to your son to be betroth her unto your son, basically you give her to him to be um his wife, you should treat her like a daughter. But then verse 10 says, if he take him another wife. So now it's saying that you got her, she's your wife. It says if he take him another wife, it says her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. So that means right there, this is the word Lord now, y'all. Because at verse 1 it says, this is the judgment from the Lord. This is the judgment you should tell them. So right there, the Lord is telling you that you can have more than one wife. But you can't treat that first wife no different than that she was being treated the first go round. Like when you first got her, you can't treat her no different. You got to treat her the same. If you can't treat her the same and take another wife, you can't do it. That's basically that's basically in a nutshell what he's saying. Because it said, like I said, verse 10, I'm gonna read it again. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. Then verse 11 says, and if he do not these three unto her, then she shall go out free without money. Ooh, you see how the Lord basically said, like, look, if you don't treat her give her food, clothes, and her duty of marriage, basically meaning, you know what the duty of marriage is, you know what I'm saying? Consummation of marriage. That's basically what the duty of marriage is. If you don't give her none of those three things, it says, then she shall go out free without money. You can't basically you can't sell her to another man so that she could be another man's wife. You gotta let her go free so where she can make a choice on her own without you getting any compensation for it because you doing wrong to her. You're not treating her right. My goodness. Then verse 12 says, he that smites a man so that he die shall be surely put to death. So right here, this is another judgment. This is another order that if you smite a man, you slay a man, you shall be put to death as well. Because it goes to that, it sounds like it's more leaning toward that eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. So if you do it, it's going to be done unto you. Okay, continuing on, verse 13 says, and if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him into his hand, then I will appoint you a place where he shall flee. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, you shall take him from mine altar, that he may die. Okay, so right here is basically going to the fact of when it says a man smite a man and everything like that. So when it says if a man lie not in wait, basically mean like he don't want to harm that man. And then it says, but God delivered him into his hand. And it says, then I will appoint you a place where he shall flee. So right there, it's saying like, if you see that this man is in need and he's you know in need and need help, and this man come to you, he said right there that basically I will show you where he should go. Like let him flee, let him go. But then it says if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor. So right there, it's like you basically premeditated, like I'm gonna go get him. I'm gonna do him dirty. And it says to slay him with guile. Basically, because you already thought about wanting to do it and you do it. And it says, then you shall take him from his altar and that he may die. So he slay somebody, you eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That was the law. Okay. Continuing on at verse number 15 says, and he that smites his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. See right here. Now, we have this stuff today where you got children that will slay their mother and their father. But instead of them being put to death, Because let's be honest, it's no way in the world that if you slay your mother and your father, ain't no way in the world that you a true believer in the Most High God. It's no way. You got to be somebody that don't believe in him or him. But see, instead of them being an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, they just go to prison and stay in prison for a certain time and then they get out free later on. Now we supposed to be a country that it says in God we trust. We supposed to follow God. Now I know people were probably like, well, David, see, Jesus came though. Jesus came and we under grace and mercy now. Yes, we are. We as his believers, we as his followers, we as disciples and saints, we are under grace and mercy. But if you are not following of Jesus and you're not of Jesus, you are supposed to still be under the Mosaic law. Until you come to Jesus, until you be saved by him, you're supposed to be under Mosaic law. Because you got a lot of people that out here are running a rampant, doing and just acting crazy and doing crazy things. And nothing happened to them. They just be free and like they set them free. And then we got to take care of them. But anyway, let's continue. And then it says, and if men strive together, and one smite another with a stone, or with his fist, he die not, but keeps his bed. If he rise again and walk abroad upon his staff, then shall he that smote him be quit. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. Wow. Okay, now y'all. So now listen at this one. So right there is this is basically telling you that if two men fighting, right? You fighting and you with your fist and you knock him out and he be in a coma, in a sense. He'd be in a coma, and or you hit him with a stone and he's in a coma, and then he uh rise up, again and walk again. Basically, the whole time that this man is in a coma, and even when he's walking and he's got a walking by a cane, that's why it says walking by like upon his staff. Basically, walking with like in a sense with a cane, he leaning on a cane. Basically, you got to pay for his loss of time, and you got to make sure you got to pay for his doctor bills in a sense. You got to pay for everything because you caused him to miss time at work and miss time of being able to provide for his family or whatever the case may be. You got to pay for that. I feel like that need to be applied today in this world today, where people will fight somebody and they that person be in a coma or they get shot and then they lose time at work and everything. Like instead of them being going to prison, make them pay. Make them pay for whatever it is that they done. Especially if they're not no gangbangers and all that stuff. They ain't got no money like that for real. But if they're real men and they fighting and then that happen, make them pay for it. Like I feel like that need to happen today. That's a good idea. And then verse 20 says, and if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. So right there is telling you that if you are as a man of royalty or whatever the case may be, and you strike your maid or your servant, man or woman, with the rod, and they die under your hand, you shall be punished. You're going to be punished for uh, uh, slaying your servant because of like what you're doing. So right here, this letting you know that slavery, God was never for. Because back in the day in slavery, they was deleting their servants. They was deleting their slaves. But see, God was never for that, because if you delete them, you're going to get punished. You're going to get punished for deleting your servant, your slave. But anyway, but then it says, notwithstanding, basically saying, but if, in a sense, if he continue a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. So right there it's saying like, if they continue, if they don't die, they don't pass away, then and they continue on for a day or two, it says then you shall not be punished because he is his money. So you is his provider in a sense. But then Continuing on in verse 22 says, if men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follows, he shall surely be punished, according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. Mm, see what I'm saying? Like, if so, right there it's saying if a woman is pregnant and another man uh hurt her, hit her in the stomach, whatever like that, and she lose her child, it says then he got to pay whatever the husband determines. So whatever he say he want to do, or whatever he want him to pay, you got to pay. That right there let you know the life of the womb, that's a life. So you got people today saying, that, "Oh no, it ain't no life, man." Like, no, you can just let that go. No, scripture's letting you know that that's a life. It says the fruit of the womb, like her fruit depart from her. So right there is letting you know that baby is a fruit. That baby that in the womb, that is a life. Anyway, let's continue. At verse number 23 says, and if any mischief follows, then you shall give life for life, eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, strike for strike. So right there is letting you know that if any mischief means like a hard time, like any if he give it a hard time or want that they're gonna cause a scene or do anything like that, and then he said, okay, since you want to do that, now it's gonna be an eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, foot for foot, burning for burning. Basically, whatever you did is gonna be done to you. We need to go back to that too. But anyway, continuing, it says, and if a man smite the eye of his servant or the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake. And if he smite out his manservant's tooth or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. So listen, this right here is also letting you know that God was never for that slavery that people try to say he was for. Because it's telling you that if you um basically pluck out a person's eye or hit them in the eye and they lose their eye, you gotta let them go free for the eye's sake. Or if you knock out their tooth, even knock out a tooth, you gotta let them go free for their tooth's sake. You see what I'm saying? So God was never for that slavery that people try to say God for. Every time God was pro-slavery. No, he wasn't. Does this sound like he's pro-slavery? No, he's pro-servitude. He's pro you making money and pro you having a place to live and pro you not being abused and stuff. That's what God was pro for. Verse 28 says, if an ox gore a man or a woman that they die, then the ox shall be surely stoned, and his flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be quit. So right there, it's telling you that if you got an animal, that is talking about the ox, but this is for any animal. If you got an animal and that animal uh killed, well, and that animal slays another person, it says you shall put that animal down and not even see. They're talking about the ox, but it's telling you that you shouldn't eat the meat of the ox. Just put it down. And then it says that the owner of the ox shall be quit. So if I'm not mistaken, when it says shall be quit, it's talking about like basically it's talking about basically meaning that you shall be free from um responsibility of that animal, and even for that person passing away, because that you stone the animal that you basically losing out for whatever money that you probably whatever service that animal does for you, you losing out from it. So you should be free from responsibility. All right. Then verse 29 says, but if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past. So right there saying that if the ox was used for his horns, like basically, that's what his horns was used for, to push in times past. And it says, and it has been testified to his owner, and he has not kept them in, but that he has slayed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and the owner also shall be put to death. So, ooh, so this right here is letting you know when it says if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, so right that's telling you if the ox was used to push with his horn, basically meaning gore and fight with his horns in time past, that if now the owner, it was told the owner like of this thing that the ox was doing this with his horns in times past. And it says, if he shall not, he did keep him in, basically means keep him locked up so he won't hurt nobody. It says, then if the ox slay a man or a woman, it says, then you shall stone that daggone ox and you shall slay the daggone owner because he was basically um what's the word? He was not responsible. Um he was irresponsible by letting his the ox be roam free and go out and knowing that he does this, knowing that he did that before in time past. So now he got to basically be stoned too because he was irresponsible. And I agree with that because you need like a lot of especially with a lot of people with their dogs and stuff, and these dogs be out here and you know that that dog was a fighter and you know that dog is vicious and you let that dog out and that dog slays a daggone animal or not animal another human, right then you need to be that daggone animal need to be put down and you like go back to the scripture, you need to be there gonna take because you're not responsible, you irresponsible, you're not good to be upon this earth when you that daggone type of a person. Just like you get, for example, you got people out here with their children. You know your child is unruly and they gonna psychotic, and you sitting here and let your child have access to a gun or whatever. And next thing you know, they go do that thing, and that happened to them. I feel like that child, that person, need to be dealt with, and the parent need to be dealt with. Let's go back to Bible. Let's go back to that because a lot of people be just out here letting their children and letting their animals and stuff do stuff, and you know your animals and your children are unruly. But anyway, let's continue. Verse 30 says, if there be laid on him a sum of money, then he shall give for the ransom of his life whatsoever is laid upon him, whether he be gored a son or have gored a daughter. According to this judgment shall it be done unto him. So right there is letting it be known that yes, this person has the ability to basically not be taken out as well along with the animal. Because if he can pay the ransom and pay the amount that they lay upon him for the life of the daughter or life of the child or the son, if you could pay that, then you could be free from passing as well. But continuing on, it says, if the ox shall push a manservant or a maidservant, he shall give unto their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. So right there is letting you know how much you got to render if that ox take a life for a manservant or a maidservant. That's 30 shekels of silver. And then it says, and if a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or an ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. Mm. So right there, if you got a pit or you dig a hole or something like that and you don't cover it to where a ox or an ass walk over it and fall in and pass, you got to pay for that ox and that ass, and to the owner, you got to basically relinquish the amount that that ox or ass is worth to the owner, and then you got to take care of that ox or ass because it's now yours. Verse 35, and I'm gonna finish it off. It says, and if one man's ox hurts another's that he die, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the money of it, and the dead ox also they shall divide. or if it be known that the ox has used to push in time past, and his owner has not kept them in, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. So right there, finishing off, the Lord has said, basically letting it be known that if one man's ox hurts another man's ox, and that man's ox pass away, then you shall sell your ox and then divide the money between you and the man that lost his ox. And then the ox that passed away, y'all shall divide it, and basically for meat for y'all to eat, and go that way. But then if it says also, if it be known that this man's ox used to push, basically use his horns and do that thing, and then now that ox passed, now it says you shall pay ox for ox. So now that that ox has passed, you need your ox is now his ox. And then it says, and the dead shall be his own. So now the dead ox is now your ox. So it's basically swapping. So with the end of this right here in Exodus chapter 21, man, it's a lot of good judgment within this. Is for one, is showing you how the Lord is pro, and he basically letting you know that you can have more than one wife. As a matter of fact, I gotta show my homeboy this, because he said, if you could show me a scripture where it said, where he basically said you can have another wife, then cool. I gotta show him this one. But it's basically showing you right there that the Lord has basically gave you a judgment saying that you could take unto you more than one wife. And then it's also letting you know that servitude and stuff like that, and how, if a man chooses to be, after 6 years, he can serve you, and you can't be just doing your service all wrong and everything, and beating on them and knocking their teeth out and everything. Because if you knock their teeth out or knock their eye out, or anything of that nature, if you do anything to harm them in a way, you got to let them go free for whatever harm you did to them. So this right here shows you that God was never pro-slavery, because slavery, as we know it, God was never for that. He was never for that. He was against that. You and it's just so much good stuff with good teaching within Exodus 21 as far as judgments, and I feel like we need to have that in this world today, because man, if we had this in the world today, man, it would be a better place, especially in the United States. But anyway, I'm gonna end off by saying, please make sure y'all like this, share this, subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed, ring that bell notification, comment, man. Tell me what y'all think about this, man, because are y'all like me, that this is good, that we need to have this in the world today, or no? And make sure, like I said, make sure y'all share this with your loved ones, your aunties, your uncles, your grandmas, and everybody, man, because they need to hear this word of God. They need to hear the word of truth, where we sticking with it and not going outside and trying to make up our own way. But anyway, I'm gonna say grace, peace, and mercy be unto you all, man. I love y'all. Peace.
This is Yahson David Speaks, and I'm gonna bring the word. It ain't about how you or me feel, that is for the birds. Cause when the scriptures speak, we got to listen to the Lord. Cause every word is righteous, sharper than a sword.